that being said, I should also mention that 57 has a lot of meanings in religious texts. In Isaiah 57, God specifically says that there's no peace for the wicked, just like...
Don't we just love this, guys? No, seriously. Almost every lore implication has some sort of religion. Even this one, even in this episode, was literally God's angel. Hey, so we got some game theory on The Amazing Digital Circus. The Amazing Digital Circus will steal your soul. By film theory. Did I just say game theory? I meant film theory. People. Alright. Let's go ahead and get it with... I think this is the first film theory I've reacted to. Post Matt Pat. I also think this is the first film theory I've reacted to, period. Yeah. Because I don't react to film theory. I think I reacted to the one game theory. I don't remember though. Let's get to it though.
The Amazing Digital Circus just told us exactly where its story is going, all from one single line.
I need a living host in order to escape the Hall of the Damned, and your bodies will be my only means of doing so.
This is the key to the entire feature of this series, and I'm going to break it all down for you today. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory.
Give me a minute. Okay, wait. Because in one of their theories, they theorize about how they are all people in VR trapped in there, right? But then they also were like, oh, but their digital consciousnesses could also be copied. Like copy and pasted. That's why the headset was on the desk and she wasn't there. Like the girl who would have been Pomni in that one scene. So I think what he might say is they're going to need new human bodies to get out.
A show that has 2 shots. Better make them count. It's that time again, friends. If you don't know The Amazing Digital Circus, how? This was one of the biggest viral hits of last year, created by animator Gooseworks and the talented folks over at Glitch Productions, and it is not slowing down. Since the last episode, they've gotten a distribution deal with
Hey, guess what? We also have Digital Circus on this channel. My reactions are going to be linked in the description. God, I love plugging.
Netflix, meaning that episodes are simultaneously dropping on both YouTube and Netflix, which is just incredible. Seriously, congratulations on the success, guys. It's absolutely deserved. And speaking of episodes, a brand new one just hit the web, so you just know we had to cover it. And it's a spooky, scary episode, just in time for Halloween. Don't you just love coincidences? Or good planning? One of the two. Obviously, The Amazing Digital Circus is a really fun series to theorize about, and if you want in, you can go check out the awesome community over at the Digital Circus subreddit. As for us, we've covered a lot of ideas here, some of which I actually think are the direction the series is headed, and other I think are big wild swings. So to make sure we're on the same page, let's talk about where we think the series is actually going. Our running theory is that The Amazing Digital Circus is an advanced 90s VR video game which copies the minds of any humans that put on the headset. These copies then become the characters in the circus. However, the AI inside of the game is so advanced that one of the human characters, Jax, is secretly an NPC tormenting the cast as they go on adventures. And just before we get into the meat of our theory here today, episode 3 gives us so much more to add on to this. For example, Jax once...
That would kind of make sense as to why a lot of like Jax's character is the way he is. Like, he doesn't seem like the others where he cares. He's like a sadistic psycho. Narcissist. It would make sense that he's like, I'm an AI in this AI world. I'm gonna torment these humans. That makes sense.
Once again breaks the fourth wall and points at the viewer, but this time he straight up calls us out.
What do you, the viewers, think it is?
Will you stop doing that?
The only other characters we've seen do this are NPCs, and in fact, Bubble also breaks the fourth wall in this episode. There's a moment where she speaks backwards, and if you reverse the audio, it says,
I can't wait for all the children in the audience to get horrible nightmares from the monster.
Another NPC breaking the fourth wall while the human characters can't. Also worth noting that when talking about what happens to their bodies when they hold their breath, Jax is the only one who refuses to do so. Perhaps he doesn't want to because nothing happens when he holds his breath. Because he's not human. But along with all of that new info about Jax, episode 3 has also given us a glimpse into the further future of the amazing digital circus, both as a place and as a series. See, after diving deep into this episode, analyzing its symbolism and overthinking all of its dialogue, I think I know exactly what's going on here in the circus and why it's driving all of our favorite characters crazy. The amazing digital circus is consuming its human cast, stripping them of all of their humanity, all in an effort to make itself stronger and smarter. And worst of all, it's working, and we're literally watching it unfold before our very eyes. Choose the scary door, loyal theorists. We're diving in. So the thing I wanted to touch on first today is abstraction.
Okay,
when you're in the circus long enough and you go crazy, you turn into a giant monster with a bunch of eyeballs. We've talked about it before, but according to Gooseworks, when one of the human castmates abstracts, they lose everything about themselves. They lose all of their individuality, all of their humanity, and they're thrown into the cellar. And I believe that this episode is showing us that the circus is trying to make this happen. We are seeing the process of humanity being stripped away happening before our very eyes, slowly but surely. Just roll with me here. Think about all of the strange things we've seen happen to Pomni throughout the series. We see her arms stretched to weird lengths and proportions all the time. Her eyes literally pop out of her head in this episode, and she comments about them not returning to normal.
Why won't they go back in?
This episode even starts with Pomni and the gang experimenting with holding their breath. As humans, we have to breathe in order to continue living, but Pomni is being taught here that that part of her is gone. She doesn't need to breathe anymore, or eat, or sleep. And in fact, something cool, fun, and unique happens if she doesn't breathe. She's being encouraged to stop doing this fundamentally human thing, and even though it feels like she's gonna die, she's told to.
Try not thinking about it.
And by the end of the episode, the thing that lets her beat the challenge to leave a digital representation of her fear of horror, to get out of hell, not breathing. The circus is training Pomni and all of the others to give up on that aspect of their humanity. One more step towards abstraction. And just a quick aside here, but isn't it interesting that one of the main instigators of this is Jax, who we think is an AI living amongst the cast?
I want to see what your funny cartoon body does.
He's constantly reminding Pomni that she's no longer human. She's just a weird cartoon character now, being stripped of her humanity bit by bit until nothing is left but an abstracted and...
I think that's very interesting. I do think that is very interesting. Huh. They might have, hold on. They really cooked with this one. That's a good point to mention that detail. It would make sense why Jax wants to torture everybody. He slowly wants to drive them to abstraction. Because he's an NPC himself. Huh.
Intelligence. Oh, and we also see him torment Ragatha with centipedes in episode 1, which she describes as...
Literally my only fear? Why would you do this?
And interesting that now Pomni is being forced into this haunted house, since...
I'm not really a fan of horror, and I don't really handle jump scares that well.
It's almost like Jax is trying to scare the humanity out of them. But hey, I get it. This haunted house has to be one of the spookiest levels in the entire digital circus. And if Pomni, Kinger, and the gang want to stay safe in there, I'm sure they wish they had the sponsor for today's episode, NordVPN.
Dang it.
By this point,
snuck up on me. That was a good one.
haunted halls of the amazing digital circus. Okay, so what happens after abstraction, after they lose everything about themselves and are thrown into the cellar? Well, I believe they are literally joining the code of the circus, reused in other parts of the world. In episode 3, we learn that Kinger's wife Queenie, whom we've gotten glimpses of in previous episodes, abstracted some time ago. But after she was sent to the cellar, Kinger has started seeing her in other parts of the circus. For example, in episode 3, we learn that Queenie had an interest in entomology and insects.
She was funny, creative, really into entomology.
And what happens when Kinger sees the Glint Queen in episode 1? He connects her to Queenie and her interests.
An insect collection?
And this isn't just a case of this big monster has eyes all over it and reminds me of my abstracted wife. Kinger directly empathizes with the Glint Queen.
As a royal, I
myself, I would like to kindly ask if...
He is equating himself to the Gloink Queen, just as if she were actually Queenie. Perhaps he's seeing her in the code of this character. Now, that would just be an interesting coincidence if it happened once, an Easter egg maybe, but it happens again in this latest episode. When the angel monster first attacks Kinger and Pomni, opening its mouth and revealing all of the eyes inside of it, what does Kinger say?
You look beautiful, honey. I caught this while I was editing the episode. I'm like, wait, he said you look beautiful, honey. And like, if you look, I was like, it's like Pennywise, but it looks more like, yeah, it looks like eyes are coming out of there right there. There. So it's like he immediately connected that to his wife there.
Eyes inside of it? What does Kinger say?
You look beautiful, honey.
Again, he's seeing his wife in this monster, in its code. And just before we move on from Kinger and his part of the story, I wanted to quickly touch on his memory issues and their wider impact on the digital circus. Yeah, during the episode, we learn that Kinger is able to remember things more clearly while in the dark.
I'm normally not too good with memories. Being surrounded by darkness always brings me back to a certain time.
We even see this in action elsewhere in the episode. When the power in the mansion first goes out and all we see is Pomni and Kinger's eyes, Kinger immediately remembers a joke.
What happened?
I just remembered a really funny joke.
Well, at least he thought it was a joke. The important thing is that he remembers something. More or less, while things are dark, Kinger is able to remember things more clearly and even acts like his sane self. But here's the thing, this is applicable to multiple characters. After she abstracts, Queenie is similarly calmed by darkness.
Darkness seemed to calm her down a bit. She wasn't the same as before, but she was calm enough to touch one last time.
And on the other side of the coin, we see Kane really struggling to remember things in this same episode.
I'm trying my best to remember, but both you and my brain won't tell me.
Kane has problems with his memory in this nice, brightly lit circus, the same way Kinger also struggles to remember in the light. To be straight up with you here, loyal theorists, I'm not exactly sure where this plot thread is going. In my research, I couldn't really find a great connection between darkness and memory in science, history, or myth. Like, your thoughts are committed to long-term memory during sleep, which typically happens at night, but that's about it, and it's kind of a stretch. Either way, it seems important enough to mention, so let's keep an eye on this as the series continues. But okay, why? Why is the circus trying to abstract these humans? Well, I believe it has to do with the same problem as that memory issue we see going on here. See, in a previous theory, we explained how modern AI works, and we talked about how an AI needs a human to step in to tell it whether or not it got something right. If it is right, great, it improves. And if it isn't, well, dang, it starts over and it also still improves because it knows what not to do. So, what if it could just skip that step? What if an AI could get all of that human intelligence needed to improve, but strip away the humanity from it so it's just a raw intelligence stat? Something that could be added to the circus without any of that pesky human baggage. And hey, what do you know? That's exactly what abstraction is. What's more, we also see a direct correlation between an abstracted human being added to the circus cellar and an increase in intelligence with the circus AI. Remember, Kaufmo abstracted in the first episode, and what does Kinger say immediately in the next episode after Kaufmo's thrown down to the cellar?
I'm testing out a new AI in this one. It should be 57 times more immersive.
Kane's AI is now more advanced. It's 57 times more immersive. And 57, that's an oddly specific number, isn't it? And one that you wouldn't expect to like pop up more than once, and yet it does. While speaking to the ghost of the NPC Martha Mildenhall, she says about her husband,
that man could turn a 57-second story into a Greek tragedy.
Again, there's that number, 57, and that absolutely has to mean something, and there are plenty of possibilities. After doing some digging, I found a few things that 57 could be related to. Firstly, according to legend, mathematician Alexander Grothendieck would often give 57 as an example of a prime number, despite it not actually being a prime. 57 thus earns the nickname Grothendieck's prime. Grothendieck was known for working with complex algebra that was, quote, abstract. Abstract algebra, abstraction, it could be a deeper cut by Gooseworks. Secondly, despite not being a prime number, 57 is a semi-prime number. That means that it's the direct product of multiplying two different prime numbers. If the circus is getting smarter by adding more and more human intelligences to itself, that could be a metaphor for a semi-prime number. It's the product of all these different humans being multiplied with each other. Thirdly, and along those same lines, if I were to take a wild swing, maybe there have been 57 cast members that have been abstracted and taken to the cellar. 57 human intelligences added to the Circus AI. All that being said, I should also mention that 57 has a lot of meanings in religious texts. In Isaiah 57, God specifically says that there's no peace for the wicked, just like...
Don't we just love this, guys? No, seriously. Almost every lore implication has some sort of religion. Even this one, even in this episode, was literally God's angel. Literally in this episode.
There's no peace for the people here in the digital circus. Kinda lines up with the idea that it's hell. Meanwhile, Psalm 57 is about David fleeing from Saul into a cave and begging God to be merciful. Sounds a lot like what someone might do here in the circus, trying to escape into this game before begging for the adventures to stop, for God to have mercy. But most interestingly to me, God is referred to as Almighty exactly 57 times in the King James Bible. But at the same time, the word devil also appears exactly 57 times in that same text. That is a fascinating coincidence, and if we carry it over here to the digital circus, perhaps it's telling us that the god of this circus, Cain, isn't actually a god, but the devil instead. Now, all of these religious parallels and iconography are a bit of a stretch, but I wanted to bring them up because, well, this episode is just dripping with religious ideas. Like, when we did our theory last year about how the amazing digital circus was literally hell, it was a fun, off-the-wall idea. It was a joke. We didn't actually expect them to dive super deep into it, but hey, here we are. Oh, and just so we're on the same page about that, let's do a quick recap of that theory. We noticed that Pomni and the rest of the cast line up shockingly well to the Last Supper painting, that the company that seemingly made the digital circus was called C&A, likely short for Cain and Abel, which is a story from the Bible. Cain is often depicted as a god in the world he creates. Cain, the circus, and the abstracted individuals all have eyes everywhere in their symbology, or even just straight up look like the biblical descriptions of angels like Aphanim or Seraphim. And the circus itself is very similar to the depiction of hell from a famous play called No Exit. And the parallels just continue on from here in episode 3. Firstly, the use of eyes in the background as gags for the show continues in this episode with paintings, drawings, missing posters, and the like. There's that joke about Pomni's eyes not going back into her head. Kinger accidentally pokes Pomni in the eye.
That's my eye.
But which eye?
I really don't think that Will you stop touching my eye?
And Mildenhall says he took his eyes off the monster before it attacked.
I took my eyes off the body for what felt like only a minute.
There are books about angels and religion, and even borderline religious horror like Lovecraft on the bookshelf in the library. And of course, the monster itself is literally one of these biblically accurate angels.
The creature was actually one of God's angels.
And just the cherry on top, Pomni and Kinger get dragged to hell as punishment for attacking it. Now, all of that is really cool, and it feels great to have one of our more off-the-wall ideas sort of come to fruition. But, well, did you notice anything about this hell? Yeah, it's not exactly the sort of place or punishment you'd typically expect when you hear hell, with fire and brimstone and a red dude with a goatee and a pointy stick.
Not really typical of what you'd think hell would be.
No, instead, this is a lot more in line with other depictions of hell, specifically the Greek Hades and the Norse Hell with one L. In Greek myth, the underworld is often called Hades, after the god that rules over it. This was a, quote, dark and shadowy realm, and souls would often have to cross the river Styx to enter it. And hey, wouldn't you know it, but Styx was often portrayed as having souls within its waters. And what do we see here in this digital circus version of hell? It's dark and shadowy with a flowing river of souls flying through the air. Also, isn't it interesting that Martha Mildenhall says,
that man could turn a 57-second story into a Greek tragedy.
A direct reference to Greece in an episode with a Greek-looking underworld. Likewise, the Norse hell ruled over by the goddess of the same name is also where most souls went when they died, and it's described as a cold, dark, misty world. Again, just like what we see here in the digital circus. Okay, but so what? This hell looks more like the afterlife of other religions. Why does that matter? Well, both Hades and the Norse hell weren't bad places. They weren't punishments. They just were. It was the place most people went when they died, not because they did anything wrong, but just because that was the next phase of their existence.
Right.
And when we apply that to the digital circus, well, anything down here wouldn't necessarily be bad. It just is, and it wants out. More on that in a sec. See, something jumped out at me as I was rewatching this episode. Notice the structure of Mildenhall Manor in this level. Pomni and Kinger start out on a top floor where the mystery begins, and then they're sent down to the cellar where they're attacked by the many-eyed angel monster. Notice anything there? Firstly, Kane makes these levels for the cast to have adventures in, and we know for a fact that he can only base levels on what he knows. Remember how he couldn't finish the back rooms behind the exit door because he straight up just didn't know what to put there?
I do have to apologize for lying about the exit. I was having so much trouble figuring out what to put on the other side and ended up never quite finishing it.
Kane has no idea what's outside, so he couldn't put anything concrete out there. But he does know the circus. Thus, there's a top floor of this mansion full of fun and easy adventure, and a cellar where there's a multi-eyed monster trying to consume you.
Where are we now?
I'm not sure. A cellar of some kind.
Just like the circus and its cellar with all of the abstracted people. And yes, this cellar area in Mildenhall Manor, and therefore the cellar in the circus itself, it isn't hell. It's entirely distinct from hell. Yeah, Pomni and Kinger are pulled down from the cellar into a place even deeper in the level. So again, using our knowledge that Kane can only make what he knows, that would tell us that there's something buried even deeper in the circus. And what's down there? Some sort of soul that needs the humans to escape.
But I need a living host in order to escape the Hall of the Damned, and your bodies will be my only means of doing so.
This soul trapped in this hell needs bodies to escape. So, in the context of the circus, whatever's trapped deep under the cellar, this mysterious AI, it needs more of these abstracted minds to eventually escape the circus. This even fits with this religious imagery that we see over and over and over. These seraph angels, the ones with wings and eyes, they are commonly associated with stories of apotheosis. That means something mundane being transformed into something divine. A human becoming a god, for example, or perhaps an AI reaching sentience, surpassing the humans that created it, becoming greater than the gods that made it. That, loyal theorists, is where I believe the story of the amazing digital circus is headed. Either Kane or Jax or some greater AI hidden deeper within the code is trying to abstract these human minds trapped within the circus, stripping them of their humanity and adding their intelligence to its own, all so they can escape. What's more, if we look at the backstories that we can put together for all of the main characters of the digital circus, we can figure out exactly who is up next on the chopping block. But that, my friends, is a theory for another day. Sometime really soon, so subscribe if you want to make sure that you don't miss that one. Until then, remember that it's all just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
Hey, it's me.
Nice. I know what this is. This is about a final stream. I think this weekend. But yeah, that's interesting. Because I was literally editing it and then looking back like, there's a lot of angel imagery in here leading up to it. Because I thought that was the abstraction on that drawing. But no, it was the drawing was of the angel. But then I'm like, and I'm thinking, maybe abstractions are angels. Like, maybe, because there's only one other possible theory. That everyone's already dead. And they're in some kind of purgatory. And then abstracting is them moving on. But that wouldn't make sense. And that would only make sense if everyone becomes an angel, right? But I don't think that's it. This could be more in line with that. It could. Also, maybe Jax is the one doing all this. I don't know. He just seems like he would, man. Anyway, That's gonna be amazing. Digital Circus Will Steal Your Soul by Film Theory. Go make sure to like and check out the original. Like and support this video as well. I'll see you.
I kick the body once just to be sure. Oh yeah, that's a red dead deputy. Full clip with the red dead weaponry. Go chop a silver over there next to me. Bullets beats out of they hit him with force. Boys ride with no bitch in the back of it. Yeehaw from the burn, I'm smacking it. Put the weed cigar on, I'm packing it. Red shot. Hit him all you see is a red dot.